You know those people who seem to know a ton of facts about everything, but you get the feeling they're not truly intelligent? It's a weird paradox, right? Well, today we're going to break down this really powerful idea about how to build deep operational intelligence, not just a library of disconnected trivia in your head. Okay, let's dive right in. So, it really all starts with this one big question. I mean, if learning is the goal, why does just piling on more and more knowledge often feel like a dead end? Why doesn't it just automatically make us better thinkers or better at solving problems? Well, it turns out the answer isn't about what we know, but it's all about how we connect it. And this right here is the core idea we're digging into. The source material makes this incredible argument that real intellectual growth isn't about stacking up facts like you're building a wall of bricks. No, it's about creating an interconnected web, almost like a living ecosystem of ideas, through a very deliberate, structured transfer of knowledge from one field to another. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the common trap that so many of us fall into. Then, we're going to unpack the six-level architecture for building real intelligence, splitting it into the foundational and the advanced stages. And crucially, we'll see why trying to skip steps is just a recipe for disaster. So, what exactly is this trap? It's this belief that more information automatically equals more intelligence. And this leads to something the source calls fragile intelligence. You might sound super articulate, you can pull out all the right facts and quotes at a dinner party, but when you're faced with a really complex new problem, the whole structure just collapses. It's kind of like being able to recite Shakespeare by heart, but not being able to write a single compelling sentence of your own. The way out of this trap is discipline. The solution is this formal six-level architecture, and I want you to think of it like a blueprint for an intellectual skyscraper. You have to build each and every floor in the right order, slowly, carefully, making absolutely sure the foundation is solid before you even think about reaching for the clouds. And here they are, all six levels laid out. We go from simple idea borrowing all the way up to what's called embodied intelligence. This is our map for the climb. And the key here is what the source calls structural humility, really mastering one level before you even attempt to move to the next. Okay, so let's start where we have to, the first three levels. This is the bedrock. Honestly, getting these right is everything, and it means we have to move slowly and with intention. This first part is all about learning to describe and understand the world in completely new ways. So where do we begin? Right at the bottom, level 1, the most basic foundational level of transferring knowledge. Level 1 is the simplest form of transfer, just plain old idea borrowing. You take a metaphor from one field to shed a little light on another. A classic example is using military language in business, talking about launching a frontal assault on a market or protecting your flanks from competitors. It's a starting point, a way to get a new perspective. But right away, there's a trade-off. On one hand, its function is to give you a new orientation, a quick flash of insight. But on the other hand, the risk is massive. You start using a shallow analogy as if it's proof. So the rule is, this level is for sharpening your intuition, not for building a real argument. Okay, so once you get comfortable borrowing ideas, the next step is to start borrowing entire structures. Now, at level 2, we're moving beyond just simple metaphors. We're transferring core structural units. The perfect example is the concept of a feedback loop. It's a mechanism that literally works the same way in biology, in computer science, and in business supply chains. We're not just borrowing a word here, we are borrowing the actual machinery behind it. And the power of this is that it gives you incredible structural clarity. It helps you see the underlying engine of a system. But you have to be careful. The risk is distorting the concept, trying to jam it where it doesn't really fit. The integrity of that original concept has to stay perfectly intact. And now we're ready to go from borrowing individual concepts to borrowing entire systems of thought. Okay, this is a huge leap. We're not just borrowing pieces anymore, we're borrowing an entire explanatory system. For instance, you could use the biological theory of homeostasis, that's the way an organism keeps itself stable, to explain why some businesses are so resilient while others just completely collapse under pressure. See, this level gives you real power. Its function isn't just to describe something, it's to explain why it happens and even predict what might happen next. You start to understand cause and effect. The danger, of course, is overgeneralization, thinking one big theory can explain everything. It has to explain the real cause, not just look like it does on the surface. Okay, let's pause here because this slide perfectly captures the pivot we're about to make. These first three levels we just covered, they are all about description. They're about borrowing ideas and theories to build a rich, multi-layered understanding of the world. But now we're shifting to the advanced levels, which are all about operation, using that deep understanding to actually act effectively in the world. All right, now we're entering the realm of true operational intelligence. This is where all that breadth of knowledge starts to become true depth. It's where deep knowledge transforms into the ability to execute with real precision. So, how do we start to operate on the world with all this knowledge? Well, that brings us to level 4. Now, this is a seriously sophisticated move. You're not just borrowing a theory anymore. You are reconstructing an entire discipline inside of a new context. So take the example here, rebuilding the field of operations management using the laws of thermodynamics. Suddenly, capital isn't just money, it's energy that can be transformed. Inefficiency isn't just a mistake, it's entropy, that inevitable slide into disorder that you have to actively fight against. It changes how you see everything. From rebuilding entire disciplines, we move on to integrating them into a single living whole. At this level, your thinking becomes truly systemic. You stop seeing a business as just a collection of departments, and you start seeing it as a single living organism. Finance, that's its circulatory system, pumping resources exactly where they're needed. Operations is its metabolism, turning inputs into outputs. And HR, well, that's the nervous system, transmitting information, culture, and even pain signals throughout the entire body. And all of this culminates in the final, highest level where knowledge actually becomes your identity. This is it. This is the pinnacle, where your deep, integrated knowledge becomes who you are and how you operate in the world. It becomes your professional identity. The source calls this the doctor of business, someone who doesn't just manage departments, but diagnoses systemic problems, prescribes interventions, and then monitors the health of the entire organization. It's not a job title, it's a mode of being. So, after seeing that amazing progression, you might feel a little tempted to jump ahead, right? But the source is incredibly clear on this. The order is non-negotiable. Trying to skip levels is exactly what creates that fragile intelligence we talked about at the very beginning. This whole process is about being slow, simple, and deliberate. And this slide just lays out the costs perfectly. If you just borrow metaphors without understanding their underlying structure, you're just creating noise. If you try to claim an identity as a systems thinker without doing the deep, hard work of integration through all the prior levels, you're not a master, you're an imposter. Every single step has to be earned. You know, I think this might be the most powerful metaphor in the entire text. Are you building a library, or are you growing a forest? A library just stores knowledge. It's passive. It's just a collection of separate books on a shelf. But a forest grows knowledge. It's a dense, living, self-reinforcing ecosystem where everything is connected and everything compounds. That's the real goal. And we end on this final critical rule. The deep, hard work of integration, it happens quietly. It happens through disciplined study, moving through these 6 levels. And only after that foundation is built, slowly and carefully, can you allow that knowledge to speak through your actions and your identity. So the question to leave you with is, are you building a library, or are you planting a forest?